Hey guys, quick little note before we get into the video. I want to apologize for my long absence. I know it's been probably over a year since my last rant or review video. Once again, I apologize. I've just been having a lot of stuff going on with me going to the hospital last year, going to therapy, and then on top of that, working a full-time job, trying to learn and save up for a car, and now I'm actually moving out next week, and getting, my own duplex with one of my best friends. So it's just been a lot going on. Thank you so much for understanding, and now with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Everyone loves a good villain, right? I mean, unless you read Warriors. Now, before you start getting up your angry pitchforks and clicking the dislike button, let me explain. Now, throughout the series of Warriors, now I'm going to start off and be honest, I've really only read the first through fourth series and part of the Dawn of the Clan series because eventually Warriors got really repetitive for me, and I'm going to be listing a lot of those reasons have to actually do with the villains and their arcs in the stories. And if you disagree or let me know if the actual latest series actually do get better, let me know in the comments. Maybe I will eventually check them out and then critique them. But for now, when I'm talking about the villains and critiquing it, I've only read the first through fourth series, so do keep that in mind. Now, if you know me at all, you know I like a very strong build and structure to a character, whether minor or not. If they're playing some sort of significant role in the story, or even a minor role, but that will keep reappearing, we need structure, we need repetition, we need to know what's going on, and we need to keep things in line and in order, so it just all seems significant to the character and the reasons for what they do. Now, Warriors seems to lack this constantly, and before, I know it is a kids series, so it shouldn't be expected for them to go into depth on the villain characters, but let's look at back. There's plenty of other children's series that will do this. Let's say My Little Pony. Why, within one or two episodes, they can reference a villain's past, explain their reasonings or who they become a certain way, for why, and then that character, they can get redeemed or they can continue their villainous ways. Now, that's not happened to a lot of villains, it's happened to a couple, but Warriors hasn't really have any record of this, but I know plenty of kids series that have done this, whether it's to reform a villain or just to explore the villain's history. Look at Disney with Maleficent, and here we have Warriors who kind of just make one-shot villains, you know, just written to only be the bad guy, and not really giving us any reason for why they do what they do. Now, I'm not saying that we should, of course, forgive them for any of their actions, like Tiger Star killing Red Tail and countless other cats for his ambitions to become leader. And I know that greed can be a powerful motivator, so he may have not actually had something happen specifically in his life that led him to do what he's done. But I still think in the end, he is honestly, even until later arcs, he at the very beginning seemed kind of a weak character. His only traits is, oh, he is greedy, he wants to be a leader, he is unvengeful of Clan, even though he now has control of Shadow Clan. But beyond all that, why sometimes he is a smart character, I think is why, honestly, even though I'm complaining about him right now, he's probably one of the better villains in the books, is because he has a presence, and his ambitions and greed do build a strong foundation for him, but the problem is that foundation doesn't hold up when we don't really see through the character, other than the short maybe manga with Sasha, or we don't really see much of Tiger Star's perspective throughout the series. So in the end, even though they did very well writing his greed and ambitions and his planning and plotting to become leader and destroy Thunder Clan, that was pretty much all there was to him. The only thing we really got of his past is when the spoiler, by the way, I think it was Pine Star, his father, abandoned him as a kid with his mother to go be a kitty pet, but then that is never even explored. It just kind of one-shot him, and you see him saying goodbye to his son, then he's like off to be a kitty pet with Jake, because, you know, Jake makes all the Toms gay, just, why even go to that point if you're not going to try to explore it anywhere in depth and just never mention it again? This is one of my main problems, not with Warriors, but with countless series, when they seem to put in a plot device that you think's going to be important, or you think that actually matters, but then it's just written off and never mentioned ever again. I feel like this could have been a great way to explore Tiger Star, to be abandoned by his father, especially if maybe that could explain why he hates kitty pets so much, but once again, that's never really explored, and I feel like that's really a waste and could have built Tiger Star up to be a much greater or not understandable, but where you could kind of view his character more in depth, which I think would have been very important to his arc. But once again, the Aaron Hunters, they missed that, and he ended up just becoming an ambitious character who was just killed, and then they couldn't let him go, and they just kept coming back, but we'll get to that later. Now I'll explore some of the other villains that do unfortunately have the same thing happen to them within the writing of the Aaron Hunters. Let's look at Ashfur and Mapleshade. Now, like I said, one of my main problems with villains is I like a villain, you can kind of see the reasoning. Once again, you don't have to forgive them. You'd be like, oh, I can understand exactly why they did this. They should be forgiven. I would have done this too. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like, I don't know, maybe as a writer myself, I feel like the villain should just be more in-depth. They should never just be a one-sided, one-shot character. And I feel like the Hunters have done that with a lot of their characters. Now, right now I want to cover, like, Mapleshade and Ashfur. Their whole perspective, like, with these characters, they seem to have tried building up a past with them, with lovers abandoning them, or someone they love deeply kind of rejecting them, turning them then into a psychotic rage. Of course, Ashfur was forgiven because he technically didn't kill anyone, and apparently to the Hunters and StarClan, he did it out of love, which is complete bullshit to me, by the way, but that's a rant for another time. And in the end, their whole arcs, their whole villainous story was just based around that one little concept, which is explored, not, like, Mapleshade at least got a story, and we kind of got to explore her, so she was at least better off in this situation. But with Ashfur, we kind of saw through Squirrelflight's eyes. He was friends with her, he was then in love with her, she rejected him for her love, and instead of being happy that she was happy, he went insane and tried murdering a bunch of cats, including her father. But you know, it's okay. He did it out of love, so we'll let you into StarClan, boy. We'll forgive you this time. Go ahead. So that leaves them, and let's talk about Thistleclaw. Now, Thistleclaw was a cat I did greatly like, but unfortunately the Aarons kind of dwindled him down the more they wrote him. Now, when I first read Blue Star's Prophecy, my depiction of him, because since he wasn't explored once again that greatly, I do understand that usually is through the point of view of one cat, or one character, but plenty of series have still been able to go in depth. Like, look at Steven Universe. It's always through Steven's point of view, but you can constantly view and see other characters and their past and their reasons for doing things. But with Warriors, all the characters seem flat to me now. Like, if you look at Thistleclaw, and I was read it, my mind created this character who, yes, he was ambitious, he was stubborn, but he loved Snowfur, and when he lost her, it's just a natural reaction to have something to blame, so he blamed Blue first, then he wanted to take ThunderClan from her and become leader so she could lose something like he did. Now, Snowfur was her sister, so I can't understand why that reasoning's a bit weird, but then when she goes on and tries taking his son from him, Whitekit, that could cause further aggression, and that's where I had him stemming and creating his character as the bitterness changed him, especially since he never actually killed or seemed to break any warrior codes. He seemed ambitious and kind of a jerk, just, you know, a basic warrior. But the Aarons kind of took all that from him. Instead of building on that or just leaving it to the way for the reader to depict him, they're like, oh no, he was always going to the Dark Forest. He doesn't really care that Snowfur died. He didn't care about White. He just wants to become leader, and they just kind of wrote him off. The more they added him to, like, future series, they kind of just dwindled his character to just this simple, flat jerk. Oh, I want to be leader. I don't care about anything else. I'm just a bitter asshole. I'm angry. I'm strong. I'll be leader. I'll do anything. I'm evil. Evil, evil. Muhahaha. And that's all he really becomes, and that really disappointed me, because I honestly thought Thistleclaw was a great character starting off in Blue Star's Prophecy, but then they kind of just stripped him down as the more they mentioned him throughout the books until he became that simple, flat character, which I found really disappointing. Now, I do know one cat who I think they actually did pretty well on, and I hope they realize this and take this in the future for any future villains or antagonists they have in future series or books, but I felt they handled Breezepelt's character really well. Like I said, I haven't read past the 4th series, so I'm not sure if they jacked him up later on, but even though it's never through really his point of view, you can see through the point of view of other characters, which is, like I said, you're able to see things through certain characters. So you should still, even if it's not in their point of view, you should be able to kind of understand what other characters are going through what character you're reading from. And you see constantly from Breezefelt, he's being smothered by his jealous, paranoid mother. He is ignored and insulted constantly by his father, and he feels like his clan doesn't want him. He feels pretty much all alone, which is what the Dark Force preys on, to have him join them. And you can kind of see what led him to that. Why, of course, it doesn't make us forgive his actions. It can make us understand what led him to take that path, even though it's not a path we would have taken ourselves. So I can completely understand and sympathize with this character, while at the same time, we're not like, it's not like we're rooting for him, but we just kind of hope he sees the right thing to do and comes back from this. Like I said, if he comes better, I hope they become better and redeem him later on, because I feel like he was the very first character they actually built and created a good foundation on, which I was really proud of. Now, they kind of do the same mistake with Scourge they did with Tiger Star, bullied as a kid, and then suddenly he's just on a murderous rampage. You did get the comic, so I can kind of see what led him down to that path, but at the same time, it just, in the end, Warriors just has a lot of flat writings, and not even just villains, but the major characters, and that's the reason I kind of got out of it for a while. I may, like I said, reread them and get back into it, but I think that Aaron's what they really need to focus on right now, is instead of always doing these big prophecies to try to hook the readers, or this big action fighting scenes, the forbidden romance, they should just really focus on their characters and the foundations of who they are, what they believe in, what lives they live, what choices they make, how others have affected them, and what created them to the cats they are today. And I think the Warrior series, if they focus on that, especially in their villains and antagonists, the Warrior series could definitely improve so much better into a book series I would truly love to read again and again. Now, that's all I really have to say. So, Eras, I doubt you hear from me, but just try to write your villains better. They're all kind of flat and one-dimensional, which is not a good thing in my book. So, that's all I really have to say about Warriors Villain Cats, and this is a really long video, so I'm going to end this here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.